But Matthew, you've done this already. This is a waste of time.
Hello, welcome to another video on the development of the Dough engine, my own custom C++ game engine. University has been rather busy and I have been stressed, so it's been a bit of a while. This video is on my scripting language, why I remade it, what it is, and most importantly, how it will be used. Yes, still wizards and quests. Nodecool 1 was designed to be very simple to parse, which is the process of turning text into meaningful tokens. You can then lex them into what's called an abstract syntax tree, which is the product of tokens being lexed. Pretty self-explanatory stuff, and Nodecool 1 accomplished this easily. It accomplished this through its charming, if not a bit clunky method of structuring everything as a function. By the way, Nodecool 3 doesn't need this anymore, and it looks much smoother for it. Ignore the cursed need for brackets, I got lazy, okay? Due to that simplicity though, Nodecool 1 had a really strong foundation that I could build on. However, it had only been designed to read in and run code. I then tried to make it run on a separate CPU thread in parallel with the game, and then sync it all up so it didn't modify the data the game was using, and it ended up less as a regular house and more like something from Hello Neighbor. So, as I was re-implementing systems during the engine rework I'm in the process of, I decided to throw it all out and start from scratch. Then, halfway through, I discovered a swath of new C++ 17 features that made half of my work redundant, so I scrapped that again and started Nodecool 3. A huge part of this was making a new concurrency library, which I named Concurrency++ because puns are life, which implemented Golang-style channels and select statements. If you didn't understand what I just said, know that it is very impressive and you should be in awe of my prowess. And if you did understand what I said, I know, right? Yeah! I'm a god! With this, everything I will need Nodecool 3 for has been built in from the beginning, making its foundations as strong as the Colossus of Rhodes. Oh, that, as solid as, okay. As solid as the Hagia Sophia. Yes. There were a few complicated nastinesses I had to take care of while remaking it. This is an example of the tokens from some code. Now, the hardest part of this was that some of these operators start with the same character. So, what is it? Is this equality or two assignments in a row? Now, I know that's not allowed, but I had to tell the computer that too. And then figure out the rules for all of this. That had a habit of breaking any system I tried to make to remedy it, but now it works and it can't hurt me anymore. It then goes to get lexed, which is just fancy person talk for telling the computer that 5 is a number and not, in fact, the entire script of Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. I will admit they do have some similarity, I can see where it got confused. Now everything is in an abstract syntax tree. This too is very fancy person talk. It means to get your code from here to here. This is where I could do some optimization if I wanted to, which I do not. Optimizations involve simple things like finding values that can be pre-calculated, up to extremely fancy things like rearranging entire sections of code to run faster. I am not trying this because honestly, it frightens me. If I made a mistake, my game might run fine for 4 months and then suddenly break, and I would have to pour through the script, game code and compiler code to eventually track down the bug. Compilers are so downright eldritch that Nintendo didn't actually go all in with it for Mario 64, taking large dips in performance rather than risking anything go wrong because they didn't trust the capricious gremlin they had made, and I wouldn't either. Another reason not to do this is that it is unnecessarily complicated. Remember, we want the Hagia Sophia, not the Colossus of Rhodes. This is a project for wizards and quests. I don't see the need for cutting-edge performance on this. And the third secret reason is that I am too lazy, but we are going to move on before I have to address that. Another thing I could do at this point would be to directly compile to an executable file Windows could run. It would be an interesting idea to do at some point. I mean, look how many results Google gives you when you look it up. Maybe I could also convert it into a binary format, so I don't full-on release a game with open code in it, but I don't think I'll do that. I remember when I was first learning to make games, I would search through game files to try and understand how parts work, see what changes I could make. I have fond memories of digging through Eggnog Plus, the game you see on screen, and changing sprites, as you see on screen. I don't think you could do anything malicious with this access, so I won't take it away. Not to mention this seems like a lot of work, and I point you to Exhibit A, lazy. So now I have my script, how do I plan to use it? Well, I'm not sure I ever mentioned how I was loading entities into levels in the previous engine. I'm too scared to look back past the horizon of bad to check if I've mentioned it. It would put some bytes before the entity data, telling the game to do some checks against some global flags. It would then either load the entity or toss the data and move on. Or, to explain it in a simpler way, bad. It was very, very bad. Now, however, all entities will be in a spawn group, and all data will be loaded and kept for later. A script can then load in that group whenever it likes. For example, at the beginning of a level, this script could run. Group 0 contains some enemies, so load them in. Then it checks if the boulder broken flag is set. If so, load Group 1, which is just some rubble. If it isn't set, load in Group 2, which will contain the boulder and a quest NPC wanting it broken. Then, if a different quest flag is set, load in these special enemies in Group 3, which have the air fryer they stole from the local village, or whatever quest design is. Of course, that's not all it'll be used for, see Wizards and Quests, but that is the newest change which requires the least heavy tech talk to explain. Speaking of tech talk, hey, it's been just over a year since I started publicly doing it, and I've broken some milestones that mean a lot to me, if no one else. At this rate, only 2,499 more years until 100,000 subs and that sweet silver play button. Honestly, YouTube analytics are a bit mad if you look at them. Commenting seems to be really overpowered. Hey, try telling me what you had for breakfast down below and I'll judge it for you. Although, this is being said by someone who likes their cornflakes milkless, so take it with a grain of salt. The judgment, not the cornflakes. God, not the milk either. Salty milk is a bad